that is famous as a place of movie scenes. Noise is always loud, there are sirens all around, and the streets are mean. If I can make it here, I can make it anywhere, that's what they say. See my face in lights, on my name a monkey's found down on Broadway. Even if it ain't all it seems, I got a pocket full of dreams, baby, I'm from New York. Concrete jungle where dreams are made of, there's nothing you can't do. Now you're in New York. These streets will make you feel brand new. Big lights will inspire you. Hear it for New York, New York, New York. On the avenue, there ain't never a curfew. Ladies work so hard. Such a melting pot on the corner selling rock. Preachers pray to God. And the gypsy cab takes me down from Harlem to the Brooklyn Bridge. Someone sleeps tonight with a hunger for more than an empty fridge. I'ma make it by any means. I got a pocket full of dreams, baby. I'm from New York. Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do. Now you're in New York. These streets will make you feel brand new. Big lights will inspire you. Hear it for New York, New York, New York. One hand in the air for the big city. Street lights, big dreams, all looking pretty. No place in the world that can compare. Put your lighters in the air, everybody say yeah, 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 yeah. New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do. Now you're in New York. These streets will make you feel brand new. Big lights will inspire you. Hear it for New York.
Yes, sir. Let's hear it for him. Let's hear it for him. Wake it up this morning, man. Welcome to Mint Street Mondays. New York Knicks, Carolina Hurricanes, champions. Oh, boy, I love it. So much proximity, and we're going to talk about it. But, man, I'm so excited to have you guys here with me this morning. Welcome to Mint Street Mondays. If this is your first time here, my name is John Farmer, your host of the One Carolina show. This is our syndicate show, Mint Street Mondays, where we fully enjoy talking everything about the team that we love that resides at 800 South Mint Street and being able to pull in cultural relevance to things that surround our Carolina Panthers. If you're not here with us as a subscriber, make sure to hit that subscribe button, that like button. It is free. If you want to join the channel, if you want to support the channel, you can join us, become a member of the OCs for $1.99 per month, and we appreciate that so much, so much, so much, so much. So, want to shout out some of the people that I see already in the chat. Shout out to my man, Tim Bolick. Shout out to Hollywood Goes Global. My man said he got married, man. That is awesome. Y'all know me. You know I am a believer, and there's a scripture that says that a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. So Hollywood Global, shout out to you, man. Hopefully everything went good and honeymoon goes great, all that kind of stuff, man. You know, you are always supported over here at the One Carolina channel, man. We appreciate you. Shout out to SC Panther Boy, my man. Shout out to Nicole Ivory, moderator in the building. Jarrell Mason said, excited to see what we do this season with the additions we made. Me too, me too, me too. And then I see here here. We already got a super chat this morning early, man. I appreciate the super chats. My man Jarrell Mason with the super chat says, glad that upstairs took care of Coker. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that, and excited to see where we go this season with the moves we made. Hopefully the Canes winning the Cup last night, that momentum will roll over to us. Man, I tell you, that is interesting that you say that. So my man, hey, Hollywood Global say he's going to be out of the country for the honeymoon in August. Let's salute, man. That's what's up. Yes, congrats on your marriage, man. That is an amazing thing. Shout out to Chris Diller. Shout out to Wonton Witz. Looks like a new person here. Appreciate you. All right, so I did want to go over something here that I think is really cool. So as we know, the Canes did win the Stanley Cup. And which was amazing, bringing it back after 20 years, right? Bringing it back to the Carolinas, man. Second Stanley Cup that they have been able to obtain in a 20-year period. And I think that is, what just happened? Oh, my gosh. Hang on one second. There we go. That is an amazing thing that has happened for them. But I did see something that, obviously with the Knicks, that to me was even more of an impressive feat. Right. What the Knicks were able to do was incredible. Right. And we'll talk about the Canes. We'll get a little bit further into that once Brad joins the show with us. But one of the main things I wanted to talk about was I like proximity. When you see something happen that's great but doesn't look normal, you like to see, okay, how could that happen for me? Right. I heard, the guys on Get Up this morning talking about this, and I thought this was excellent. When you think about someone like Wembanyama, right? There's so many people that, will look at Wembanyama and think I can never achieve that because I can never be 7'5", right? But Jalen Brunson has an everyman kind of complex, right? Or situation, because it's just like when Stephen Curry became, really good, really fast, right? It's he doesn't look that tall, which actually Steph Curry is actually 6'3", 6'4", something like that, right? Jalen Brunson's even shorter than him. But the way that Steph played the game kind of changed the game where people like a Brunson would not only feel like they could make it, right? Because you should have that confidence anyway, but that because the game changed the way that it did, that now you have teams that will give a shot towards you making it, right? And so I was thinking about this. I was like, you know what? And I know, look, I can already hear the people that are the, oh man, here you go with the Bryce stuff. I could already see that being a thing. But I do have to say this. I wonder, is it possible that Bryce Young could become the Jalen Brunson of the NFL? And I'll tell you what I mean by that, because there's a few different ways that, obviously from an aesthetic perspective, you see a similarity there, right? Bryce Young, 5'10", Jalen Brunson, 6'1". I thought one of the coolest things that we saw, because Brad and I talked about this briefly last night, right? One of the coolest things we saw was the fact that Jalen Brunson was able to score 45 points in a closeout game against guys like Stephon Castle, 6'6". You know what I'm saying? Victor Wembanyama, 7'5". Dylan Harper, I think he's 6'3", 6'4", right? And this dude is scoring the basket. Oh, man, I appreciate that, Michael Dickerson. Thank you for the kind words. But this guy is scoring the ball at a high rate, right? And I think, if I'm not mistaken, in a closeout game, or actually in a final series, my apologies, he was 11.5 points per game or something like that. There was some kind of, I can't remember the stat I saw this morning, but it was something really interesting. But it was one of those stats that only Stephen Curry, him, Shaq, and I think one other person has done, right? Ever. And I thought that was just absolutely fascinating, because when you're that size, you have to do something that's just otherworldly. With him, it's positioning, right? With Bryce Young, it's accuracy, it's anticipation. You know what I'm saying? It's his ability to move around, right? And I did think it was interesting for somebody to have those kind of stats against, there was one basket that he scored against Wemby where it was I'm driving towards you. I'm not going to let you block my shot. So I'll body you a little bit, drive a little bit closer, square up with you, body you a little bit more. Boom, I'm to the basket. It'd be one thing for you to shoot a jumper over top of Wemby. That's one thing, which you can barely even do that. But to be able to be 6'1", to get on a guy that literally might be one of the best blockers at the basket that we've ever seen, right? And you position yourself and find your way to get to the basket to score like shots that count, that kind of close out these games, right? Is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So when I thought about that, I was like, man, I feel like Bryce can be a version of that. But the most important version of that is based on, like Jarrell Mason said earlier, what do we see from this team with the moves that they've made and the changes that they've made? What will this look like in the future? Because that's important. And so that's what drew me to this point, right? So Jalen Brunson signed a contract some couple of years ago, and he left literally $100 million on the table, right? He took a 4-year, $156 million extension, and it was $113 million less guarantees than he was eligible for, right? And I thought to myself, I said, I've said this on this channel before, and I'll reiterate the point. I think one of the biggest things that Bryce can do in his favor is continue to have players around him that help elevate his talents, because he doesn't have the kind of quality that say like, and look, here's a great example of this, right? In the NBA, like LeBron James took the 2007 Cavs to the finals against the Spurs and got swept, right? Now, I'm not saying LeBron James had to take less money or anything like that, because at that point, he wasn't even up for an extension. He was still playing on a rookie deal, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on that. Correct me. But I think that was LeBron's third year in the league that he went to the finals. So, third or fourth, one or the other. But the point is that there wasn't big money on the table, but you had talent that could drag you there. Cam Newton had the type of talent that could take a ragtag bunch, not named Greg Olsen, of course, of receivers to the Super Bowl, right? Bryce don't have that. Jalen Brunson didn't have that luxury, right? So what luxury do you have? One, you got to have a GM that's able to put the right pieces around you, right? That's probably the most important part. Well, that's yet to be determined fully, but we can see the fruits of the labor to some degree already with Carolina, with what they've done with Jalen Coker, with Tedero and McMillan, with, even Xavier Leggett at times. You know, the tight end situation is still going to be in flux right now, and hopefully even the running back situation changes substantially. But you can see the makings of a team that they create, like, this not super team, if you will, of sorts, but the chemistry becomes so potent that it's like, it's the one thing that would separate you from a lot of other teams that are just going to keep like paying players, cycling players, all that kind of stuff, right? So I said all that to say this. We get to a certain point, like Bryce Young has a successful year this year. I would love to see him do something very similar to this, right? And I think you got the right kind of guy and the right kind of makeup to be able to get it done. I think that it would be in his best interest, in my opinion. And I know I'm speaking way early because we haven't seen Bryce do anything that would even warrant at this point a fully, well, that's not true. I'm not going to say that. We have seen stuff that warrants an extension, but we haven't seen it to where it warrants a max deal that puts him at the upper echelon of players and salaries and all that kind of stuff. And so I started thinking, I was like, well, let's just say Bryce Young has a year this year that's kind of like, 30 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards passing, 90 plus passer rating, and we go 12-5 and, end up in the divisional round or maybe even the NFC Championship, right? Like I know, the fifth-year option becomes the option, hey, we're going to pay him, right? He's your guy of the future, without question. So with that said, what do you do if you're Bryce? Because if they pay you, right, somebody eventually, it may not happen right away, but down the line, somebody is going to suffer from that, right? We've seen this up in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, I did find it interesting that Joe Burrow was talking about Trey Hendrickson and how he wanted to get that deal done. I thought that was really cool of him. Oh, cool, you're caping for Trey Hendrickson. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you signed this max contract. And also, we're going to sign your 2 receivers that you want to keep. Somebody's going to suffer somewhere. So here's your consolation prize, Shamar Stewart. And no shot at Shamar. Hopefully he gets better, right? But you can't pay everybody. Hey, Orlando Brown's gone. Bye. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're going to lose players. You're going to not be able to retain players. And then when it comes time for you to go bid in free agency for some, really good services, you're kind of capped, no pun intended, right? Because you paid all your money to your skill positions, your quarterback, your wide receivers, right? And it just, to me, I guess when you're in a situation like Burrow, when you're in a situation like, Bryce Young, when you're in the situation like Brunson, right? And don't get me wrong, New York is a whole different animal when it comes to market, right? Brunson is a forever hero in New York. Brunson will have a statue in New York. Brunson, and look, I don't think they're done. I really don't. I don't think they're done. I think that this is something that could sustain for them. But this is the same way that I feel like what could happen here, right? Like if this works, if this hits, if these players that you brought in, T-Mac goes to another level, right? Already winning Rookie of the Year. Chris Brazile becomes a superstar, right? Xavier Legette turns a corner. There's a world that exists where you can keep all these guys together, but the biggest contract that you're going to have to worry about and what happens with it is going to be Nines if he's successful and it's time to pay him, right? And if I'm him, I'm looking at what they're doing in New York right now thinking to myself like, man, we just brought in Mechie, so there's some proximity there. I'm familiar with that guy. I got, chemistry with these guys that I've been with. We've been in a foxhole together. I don't want to break this up. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we start having the same kind of success we had to end the year in that playoff game and almost win it, the last thing I would ever want to do is break that up, because that would be a travesty, right? Because I don't think that, for as talented as I think Bryce Young is, I don't think he has the type of talent to be able to sustain consistent change at receivers and skill position, all that kind of stuff. And if you think about a deal like this and you operate in a similar fashion, then you might be in a situation where you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that at all, right? So I just thought that was really interesting. And I wanted to bring up another point. So we've seen this historically too. The same thing that just happened with Jalen Brunson and taking the pay cut. We've seen this in the NFL. We've seen it in the NBA. There was never a point in the NBA, to my knowledge, to my remembrance, where Michael Jordan was the highest paid player in the NBA, right? He was always in the upper tier, right? But Jordan's endorsements are where he got paid off of the most. With this situation in the NFL, very similar, Tom Brady. So Tom Brady took pay cut after pay cut after pay cut, right? 2010, pay cut. 2013, pay cut. 2018, pay cut. And some of these pay cuts that he took, some were not so big because, it depends on who's getting paid that year, what that contract looks like. But for the most part, Tom Brady took pay cuts to continuously put himself in a situation where he was not going to be devoid of the talent that he needed to continue to sustain that success, right? So I do wonder, when I think about this, I'm like, man, how would you, if you're Bryce, position yourself to do this? Because I did think about it like, sometimes your agents are like, hey, man, you can't be the guy that resets the market. You got to go out there and take the deal as it's positioned to you, right? So we're not going to allow you to be that guy. But I think you can, man. I really do think you can. I think you can make the decision, the conscious decision, even if it's a bad one. It is a gamble, no doubt. It is a gamble, right? Because you're talking about potential generational money that you're willing to walk away from to keep a band together to hopefully you have ultimate success. But let me tell you why it makes the most sense, right? Because after the fact, Tom Brady takes all these pay cuts, but man, look at that Fox deal. That Fox deal is unbelievable, right? Endorsement deals, all this kind of stuff. And you're getting that stuff anyway. If you're winning and your face is out there, think about Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch talks about this all the time. I never spent my game checks. Never spent my game checks, right? I lived off of my endorsements. Some of these endorsements might be 100, 200, 300,000 a pop, right? And it's going to be taxed differently. And the NFL is not going to take fees and all that other kind of stuff. Now, you're going to still have to pay taxes on it, but it'll be a lot different than your game checks. Now, my game checks can just sit. I can accrue interest in, high yield accounts and also investments, things like that. So it is a smart play. And if we just tell them the truth, when we talk about pay cut, guys, like we talking about, look, I have somebody in my family that is really, really, really well off, right? And one of the things that he told me years ago, man, there ain't nothing that in proximity, because clearly if you look at it from things that you can buy materially, right? If you make 10 million or you make 60 million, there are things that you'll be able to buy with 60 million that you can't necessarily buy with 10 because of being able to keep it around, right? But when we talk about basic needs, right? Charles Barkley tells a story all the time about buying all these cars and somebody coming up to him one day and be like, man, how are you going to drive every one of these cars? Why do you have all these cars, right? So when you're on some young stuff, of course you're going to go out and spend money. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we do when we're young, right? But once you kind of figure yourself out a bit and be like, hey, man, let's get some sensibilities about things, especially if I have a family, if I need to put away and store for the future and all that kind of stuff. It's like, really, there ain't nothing that 10 million won't get me that I can't get with 10 that I can get with 60. I can still buy a house. I can still have investments. I can build off of the 10 million, especially if there's a bigger goal at play, right? You take a lesser salary with a company who's a startup that you really believe in, your skills don't change. So because think about it, if you get poached or you get pulled from one company or you get recruited, whatever it is, by a company and you have a skill set that they're looking for, guess what? Somebody else is looking for it too, right? So even if it doesn't work out here, I'm still going to be able to go and use this skill set somewhere else where I can secure the bag somewhere else. But while I'm here in this very moment, I'm going to take the lesser. Why? Because if we win, I just want y'all to think about this for a second. Yeah, I see the chat blowing up, and I'll respond to some of the chat in just a second. But just consider this for a moment. What does Bryce Young in Carolina look like hoisting the Lombardi? What does that do for him? Right? Because not only, I know that it's not New York, it's not the huge market. I said that earlier, right? But here's what it is. You're the first quarterback to do it, right? You would put them on the map like never before, because I don't think this will be a Seattle situation. I thought about that this morning. Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl for Seattle, and it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know that I've seen a Super Bowl team be less talked about so quickly. It's crazy, right? Like they won it. We talked about them for a week, and it was done. This New York thing, they're going to be talking about this for years. This will dominate the summer. This was the best thing that could have happened to sports media, because now we have reached that point. The Stanley Cup is over. The NBA Finals are over. We're not in training camp in football. So from now until the middle of July, before training camp starts, we literally are in that dead period. Yeah, we got some WNBA stuff happening, but I like the WNBA personally, or whatever. But it's not. It doesn't drive a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So that said, you are in a lull period. Boy, they just gave you the greatest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? By having a storied franchise like this win a title. Oh, man. Big time. You know what I'm saying? So for us, because we know how the league feels about us, it might possibly be a similar situation. But why I think it would be different is because I see y'all going back and forth in the chat about XL. I don't know what's being said or whatever like that. But the point is that a guy like XL, big personality. T-Mac, big personality. Bryce Young, he be out there dancing, running, doing all that kind of stuff, big personality. This would be a situation where it would be a little bit more sustainable. It wouldn't be as bland as the Seattle win, right? Because the Seattle win was predicated on defense. I'm of the belief that if this team has the ultimate success, and that happens within 1 to 3 years from now, that it'll be because of a lot of the skill positions. It'll be because guys like T-Mac are just virtually unstoppable. It'll be because Jonathan Brooks found, the version of him that we saw in Texas before the ACL injury. It'll be because Bryce Young is a similar, situation person that he was coming out of Bama, and the guy that we saw against Atlanta last year, the guy we saw against Dallas, and the guy we saw in the playoff game against LA, that he found the consistency of that, right? And that will spell big dollars and a lot of, visibility. So you do this and you take a cut to continue doing it, right? Because like I said, I don't think New York is done. It is hard to beat a team with that kind of chemistry. Think about what's getting ready to happen in our division. You got influx let's start with Atlanta. Influx at quarterback. Who's going to start? We seen that movie, right? We've been a part of that movie. What's the old adage? If you got two quarterbacks, you got none, right? So it ain't gonna necessarily change with Penix and Tua Tagovailoa, right? So now Atlanta's in influx with that, situation. They got a whole lot of new defensive pieces. James Pierce Jr. and his whole situation, who knows what that's gonna look like. All this stuff. So that's them. Go to New Orleans. Look, nothing about the Shuck thing scares me, right? We played terrible defense against them. We won a big game and went in there and fell asleep in their stadium. I think that changes this year, right? So I'm not, too awful terrified about that. And then Tampa is just a powder keg waiting to blow. It might be, and I don't think we played the Lions before our bye week, but I don't know who they play before their bye or whatever. But it's possible that before Tampa's bye, Todd Bowles might be gone, right? That's just how toxic that situation could potentially get down in Tampa. So what am I saying? Oh, the division's wide open. It's ours for the taking. And it's there for a team who's consistent, right? Plus, inevitably, and it always happens, a division eventually will get to a point where things change, where they start to find teams. And look, I want that. I don't know about y'all. I'll say that out loud. I don't want to be in a division where the teams are trash and we're the only team good. I want that competition, because when you look around, a lot of these teams, like, think about the NFC West. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a time where the whole NFC West was down bad. Now you got the Niners that have been in the Super Bowl 2 times in the last 10 years. You got the Rams that have won a Super Bowl, been to the NFC Championship 2 times in the last 10 years. You got the Seattle Seahawks, who just won a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? They were a 10-7 team last year and didn't even make the playoffs. Just shows you how crazy that division is, right? But then you also got Arizona, right? So you don't want to be Arizona of the division, but you do want the division to be competitive because it'll wake guys up, right? So, yeah, I'm fascinated to see. But the point I was making about the pay cut, I just think it would be really cool to see Bryce become successful here and then do something that kind of selfless to be able to – because, you think about it. Jalen Brunson had some early success. He was a big free agency acquisition for a reason, and he left $113 million on the table for a reason. So it's not like his beginning was like Bryce's beginning, right? But if Bryce has this just magical year next year, right? The one thing that I would make sure that I would remember if I'm him is it would be easy to tax Carolina because of how you were treated, how you were benched, all that kind of stuff, right? And you could be justified in doing that. But I would also remember what it looked like and what it felt like to be sacked 62 times as a 5'10", 190-pound guy because you didn't have an offensive line worth nothing. You didn't have weapons that could separate a lot or get, separation down the field and all that kind of stuff, right? Remember what that felt like. Because if you take the max and tax the team because, hey, time to get my get back, then eventually it's coming. You're going to start losing players. And look, Dan Morgan's great. Don't get me wrong. Dan Morgan is a great GM. But it's inevitable. When you lose high-level players, sometimes it takes guys, a chance to come in. I see y'all, like I said, talking about XL. XL might be a guy that hits this year. It may take a minute. But anyway, let me go back through this chat. I appreciate y'all sticking with me this morning. I get on my rants. I start talking, but I appreciate y'all so much for joining me this morning. Make sure to smash that like button. It is free. We are streaming only on YouTube this morning. Like I said, I am having some trouble with my X account, but that is something that we will be fixing soon. So I just want to go through some of these. Let's see. Shaky8 says, yes, he can. Thought the same thing. I'm not sure what that was about. Wonton Wits, is that what it is? Wonton Wits. I still believe in XL, hoping he has a bounce back season. I do too. Even though look, we be shooting the XL on this side, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. Elaine Foster, what's good, man? XL will turn the corner. Charles says, what do you say here? Raleigh is a better sports town than Charlotte. If the Panthers were in Raleigh, we would have won a Super Bowl by now. I completely disagree with that, but salute for your take. 09 can only improve with consistency. I completely agree, Rob. Thank you for joining me this morning. 9 is, yes, his consistency is going to be the key. But I also believe that consistency is going to come from look, you can't win without talented players, man. If you got super talented players, that's what's going to bring that consistency and keep that consistency. So that's also important. Let's see. Shout out to Michael Dixon. He says, I've watched players getting better and better every year, and then boom, they take off. I think the writing is on the wall for Bryce, but folks can't get over his size. Hey, man, look, I agree. And look, that's what I'm saying. Like, one thing, Jalen Brunson, I'm not going to stream this. I'm only going to stream one clip today because of the computer that I'm working off of. If I stream, it'll like start clipping and then the stream might drop. So I want to be mindful of that. So I'll be, there's one clip that I want to share that we'll talk about. But yeah, I mean, Brunson talked about it. The one thing you can't measure is heart, right? And like Jalen Brunson, in a different way, because Jalen Brunson's dad played in the NBA too, right? He played for the New York Knicks. The storyline is just crazy, right? But Craig Young, man. Bryce is Bryce because of Craig, right? Craig was hard on Bryce. Craig, developed Bryce. He put him with the best people. He trained, with him himself and stuff like that. You can see that he's very much involved. So, size may be a thing, but hey, you got the Heisman Trophy. You were the first overall pick. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you how, like I said, the proximity is insane, man. For Jalen Brunson to score 45, you know what it reminded me of? Jalen Brunson's 45 and scoring it over someone who is an alien like a Wemby, right? Reminds me of Bryce Young throwing for 448 in Atlanta Stadium, the same stadium where he broke the SEC championship passing record, right? 448 yards, setting the single game passing record for the Carolina Panthers, broken by what we would consider in NFL standards an alien, right? Cam Newton was the Wemby of the quarterback position. We never seen anything like him. Size, speed, athleticism, all of that kind of stuff, right? Probably you'll never see it again. And a 5'9" guy broke that record. Impressive, right? So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of proximity here. So we could see a very similar situation because I guarantee you, and this is what I'm talking about as far as visibility is concerned, which is why I'm going to start pushing this narrative like crazy to my little old platform that I have here, because I feel like what could happen this year if the Carolina Panthers take off, like you said here, the writing's on the wall for Bryce, or this is the year that they take off, right? Or whatever. Man, if the Panthers take off this year, let me tell you how crazy it'll be, because people will start comparing. Man, that situation in Charlotte looked a lot like what happened in New York, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, who can win with a 5'10" quarterback? Are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? All these people, Becky Hammond, Draymond, even people who are celebrating today, Stephen A. You know what I'm saying? All these people talking about Brunson. Oh, he'll never be able to do this, and this. You know what I'm saying? Or people saying like, look who had to be out of the way or whatever. Like, man, who cares about that? Look, you play the people in front of you. They went on a historic run. Point differential, one of the best runs in NBA history, right? Defensive stats, one of the best runs in NBA history. So it could be on the table for us. It could very well be on the table for us. I love it. Where you stay at don't matter. It's how you play. Sure. I think a taste of the playoffs has boosted their hunger to win. I couldn't agree more, Jay Grizzly. Appreciate you being a member. Hey, look, man, Dave Canales said this week, and I quote, "This is going to be the hardest training camp that these guys have ever had." I don't know what that means, because there's not much that you can do. What's what I'm looking to say? There's not a whole lot that you can do as far as like the physicality of the training camp, because the NFL has put the shackles on that, right? Because and for good reason, you don't want to overdo it with these guys, right? So the shackles have been kind of put on these guys a bit. That said, though, this is what I take that as, right? I take that as, for some of you guys that are fringe, right? For some of you guys that have not necessarily stepped up to the plate, for you, this is going to be hard. For you guys that might be comfortable in your positions because you are talented, for you, this is going to be hard, right? This is going to be a difficult training camp for you, because we literally, as the Bible tells us in towards the end time, the wheat from the tares will be separated, right? We will know if you really about that life. Why? Because I'm telling you, man, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more when Brad joins. We're going to talk about this, when we talk about the minicamp situation, because there are guys that are emerging, guys that can literally snatch your job out of your hand. So what kind of guy are you going to be? Oh, man, I love it. Competition at the highest level. That's what I hear. I don't hear like, yeah, boy, we're going to be running 2-a-days. It's going to be hot. Nah, the NFL ain't doing that no more. They done stopped all that. This is more about who you going to be. You going to let that guy take your job? Because we're going to let it happen. That's what's going to be hard. No Nepo stuff. No buddy system. Hey, we keep talking about, Xavier Legette. We keep talking about Teteroy McMillan. We keep talking about Jimmy and all these other young guys. Let me tell you who all of them need to be worried about. David Moore. There's a lot of chemistry there. There's a lot of big time plays that have been made between those guys. If he's healthy, that could spell a problem for some people. I'm not saying he's gonna snatch people's jobs or anything like that, but what I am saying is that he's gonna be in position to make plays when he's needing to make plays, right? So yeah, it's gonna be one of them type of seasons, and I'm here for it. I'm all here for it. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe button, bell notification so you never miss a video. I appreciate you guys being here with me this morning. We're going to move right along, and our co-host will join us at the point. Let me just check my phone real quick because I thought that he would have been here already, but nope. Okay, cool. So I'm sure he'll tap in with us. Shout out to my man, Pop. That's my guy. Did I hear Cody Lack's talk with Canales? Cody had a one-on-one talk with Dave Canales. That's dope. No, I haven't heard that. I'll go check it out. But appreciate you letting me know that. I'll be interested to see what he had to say. Says this team is being built for any QB to step in. I do agree with that. I said that. We said that just recently, right? We talked about how it does feel like the way that they're positioning the team. And I talked about it from this perspective, Jake Glizzy. I talked about how this team was positioned to do that based on, Bryce Young and having him. Guys, give me 1 second. I'm gonna bring Brad in just a moment. I'm gonna put you on mute. I just got an important phone call I got to take real quick. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. When you got kids, you get, duty calls sometimes. Anyway, all right. So we are going to bring in my boy. Kind of threw me off a little bit, making sure my little one is okay. But shout out to my man, Brad. Brad, you are in the building. What's going on with you, brother, this morning?
Chilling, man. How we doing this morning?
Man, doing well. Doing very, very well. So, we were talking, and I was making a point there because Jay Glizzy has said this team is being built for any QB to step in. I completely agree with that. I think that, but I also, the reason I agree with this is because I've talked about this from the beginning. And I won't bring this up fully right now, but I'll just say this, that one of my biggest supports about Bryce is the fact that you were able to stabilize the organization at the most important position so you could build that team in that way, right? So even if he doesn't necessarily become the benefactor of all of that, at least he was somebody that helped you get to that point. So that's why, to me, a success that you got him to this point. At this point, but that's not going to be important. We can go on that all day long. I don't want to rest on that right now. What I do want to talk about, man, is did you happen to hear my Bryce Young, Jalen Brunson comparison? And if you did, what were your thoughts about that take?
Yeah, I heard that, man.
Oh, here you go.
So here's my thing. I did have this whole take on, I was going to call it, Kobe's great interview where he said that's a Bigram, yoga stretch. But I mean, there are similarities there. Mm-hmm. Being undersized, I was start thinking this morning about him getting ragdolled last year at the first of the Miami game and those things. I compared it to, Wemby when he just, grabbed Brunson by the back of the head, shoved him almost to the ground, and just the kind of way he did. He looked outmatched, oversized. Mm-hmm. I really like some of the takes I was hearing about, you can't win a championship with Brunson being your best player. And people were saying, oh, that's insane. What do you mean? He is their best player. But probably 30, 40 games into their season, and this is all NBA analyst stuff I've heard. So these aren't 100% my takes, but I want to give, that credence. But basically, 30, 40 games in the season, they made it where they had meetings. They were like, Carl Anthony Towns, we need more from you. We're going to run this flex offense. We're going to put him at the top. We're going to let him make plays, and Brunson will get to run freer. And he did. And so, that's how they ran, basically that quick 13 games to get to the championship. And I think that's, that's a good parallel for Bryce. I like what you were saying about, the fact that, he can be good, but we don't expect him, and we shouldn't expect him just with like his limitations to carry us. So what you have to do is you have to put that juggernaut around him. You have to put that squad around him and give him those pieces, which, is not asking too much, because all quarterbacks need talent. All quarterbacks need a good offensive line who can keep them upright. So I really like the fact that, Bryce is one of those players that he can be really good, accuracy, all those different things. But we do have to build this team up to take advantage of and to cover some of his deficiencies.
Yeah.
And if we do those things, we definitely are building a young, championship roster.
Yeah.
And our cat can be J.C. Horn. It can be Derek Brown, a guy who both of those guys started off having some issues. JC was a little too handsy in coverage. I equate that to, Karl Anthony Towns and his, really stupid fouls. And, Derek Brown had issues, had knee injury, and those guys are coming to their own, and they're providing the kind of leadership we will need going forward. And it just starts with the work ethic. And, so it's not too far-fetched.
Yeah, and not for nothing. I mean, Jalen Brunson scored. Like, here's the thing: you do build around him, but there has to be things that your guy can do, because this isn't a normal thing, right? Because the normal thing, history does tell you that guys that are smaller guards like this don't tend to win like that, right? But there's a few things that are anomalies. One being the whole Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges thing, with them, being guys that won a couple of national titles together. So that, that chemistry there is, unmatched. And there's a clip of when the New York Knicks got Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson's reaction. Like, somebody was recording, and I mean, he was like screaming. He was super excited. So that, that's part of it too. That, and I mean, the dude is he a stone cold killer as a scorer, man. Like, I mean, he scored 45 in a closeout. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like this guy's any, just I'm a super point guard, distributing all that kind of stuff. I do think that they can get caught up playing a little bit of ISO ball a little bit too much sometimes, but they find out a way to make it work. So in similar situations, like I said, man, it was really cool watching. It's just the optics of it all, man. Like, a guy that's, I mean, he scored more points in a finals game than any Knick in history, and has like I can't remember, there's another stat where he's up there with like Steph Curry, Shaq, and somebody else with like a average of points or something like that, during this finals period or whatever. And I was like, man, how crazy is that when you consider, like, you look at someone like Bryce at 5'10" has the Carolina Panther passing game record, who beat a alien himself in Cam Newton, who was, essentially like a Wemby in his position, because there's never been anybody like Cam, size, speed, height, all that kind of stuff, to play the quarterback position. And like, to do that at such a small size, and to do it in the same stadium that you broke the SEC championship passing game record. You think about all the greats that have played, in that game over history, for you to do it at that size is pretty remarkable. So it would be really cool. And I was saying this last part, and then we'll move on to our next topic here. One of the cool things about this, man, is that if Carolina somehow finds their way to be like super successful this year, like immediately this year, and we end up either NFC Championship or even, more than that, Super Bowl, who knows, right? Because it can be any given year with any of these teams, right? But if we happen to be that Cinderella team this year, there's going to be a lot of proximity to people talking about how, man, this is crazy. Look at what's happening down in Carolina with a quarterback that's smaller, this isn't supposed to happen, quote unquote, like it wasn't supposed to happen with New York, but it is happening. And I think it gives us a ton of visibility. So as a content creator, I ain't gonna lie, I love it because I'm gonna be pushing that narrative like crazy. So, we start winning, I'm gonna be like, hey man, we might be New York. And then, you know what happens with that. But anyway.
Well, let's hope in that time frame we won't have to fire our coach or, our owner have to create another venue to take his focus away from the team so that we can win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely. So we did a thing, a big thing at that. Jalen Coker got a big payday, and boy, was I happy about it. Jalen Coker signed a deal for 4 years, $35 million, and it kind of came, honestly, to me as a bit of a shock because I knew that it was something that was going to happen. I didn't anticipate it happening right now, but I'm glad that it did. The numbers work out in our favor. It's a very team-friendly deal. Mike K had a tweet where he kind of broke down like how the numbers work. I don't have that in front of me right now, but I did think this was a really, really cool thing that we did. And I was very happy for Jalen Coker because he, I feel like the thing with Coker, man, and shout out to my boy, Real Ball Watcher, because he brought this up, and I thought this was really cool. Like, just seeing just how different this team looks when Jalen Coker is available to when he's not, right? And how much different this offense looks. And I thought this was really cool. So, give me 1 second. Let me just make sure. Okay, cool. So, this is, and I like how you put this too, on Coke versus sober. Sober, let's say without Jalen Coker.
Yeah, when I started saying Cokehead, I was thinking like, oh man, it's kind of like Anthony Richards, it's changing his number from 15 to 5 because it's like, you really want to be associated with that, but hey,
it is
Coker
what it is.
Get our team heart rate up and, make some plays and cause excitement. So
yeah. And you can't look, we talked about this before with the whole, like, in respect to Teterow and McMillan, people still calling them Tet. You don't decide your nickname. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can try to change, capture that narrative. And of course, people here, we going to respect you. But like the way it normally goes, people pick your nickname. Michael Jordan went by Mike Jordan. He got to Carolina. They started calling him Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Because somebody was like, hey, you're a grown man now. You know what I'm saying? Like and it wasn't necessarily like on some like, negativity. It was more like, hey man, look how you playing. Now we're going to start calling you Michael. And of course, everybody started calling him Michael Jordan. Tom Brady's name was Tommy Brady. And they started calling him Tom, and he just started going by Tom Brady, right? So it just, it just kind of happens that way. So I'm glad that Jalen Coker has embraced it because the worst thing is to fight against it. Now with something like AR-15, I can understand that. That's that's a little bit different dynamic. But that said, you don't get to pick it. All right, so sober, 9 games, 5-4 record. The record actually looks a little bit better in the games that he didn't play versus when he did. But when you just look at the amount of games and the yard differential, the touchdown differential, that kind of thing, 1,514 yards, passing yards per game, 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We had 168 yards per game, right? And there was the 57-1 touchdown interception ratio, right? With 157-1, that seems 1.57 to 1. I got you. So not quite 2 touchdowns, but like a touchdown and a half. I got it. All right. On Coke, though, 213 passing yards per game, 3-1 touchdown to interception ratio, 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 7 games and 1,497 yards during that time. So it goes without saying that Jalen Coker is a huge part of this offense, and Bryce Young has a huge amount of trust in him that brings us to a point where he, finds a lot of success when he's on the field. But what were your thoughts about the Jalen Coker extension as far as the money and just the, thoughts on the extension itself?
Well, the money, I was ecstatic, you know what I mean? Because talking about just, we live in a world where these receivers are cleaning up. And, and I'll always go back to, Drake London, because a couple of weeks ago, the Falcons gave him $150 million. And don't get me wrong, I mean, you want to pay players who are deserving, but when your best player on your team is a wide receiver, mm-hmm. and you're paying him that kind of money, you're just hamstringing yourself. And so We've got T-Mac on a rookie deal. We've got Excel on a rookie deal. Bryson Tremaine was, he was tendered. And this just doesn't really hurt us in any kind of way, hamstring us in any kind of way for the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, first of all, that's great. Two, I mean, the kid, the way he hit the scene in the playoffs and the way, he played strong down the stretch, if we didn't take care of him, you said it earlier before I came on. I mean, there are teams who will be looking and will be like, hey, that kid can help us, and we'll pay. Some teams will overpay.
100%.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? He's just the kind of kid, man. I really like what he's done to become what he is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's had a lot of soft tissue injuries. They made him, or didn't make him, but they highly encouraged him. You could hear it in Canales', interview the other day at the end of minicamp. You know what I'm saying? He's like, we can't force these guys to do these things, but we highly encourage these guys because you do have players who are doing really well in OTAs and minicamp, and then they leave for these 5 weeks and they come back out of shape. I'm not saying that's what Coker did the first year, but they really, really highly, quote unquote, I like, people around, see the company I work for, we kind of delegate to other companies, you call them providers. And, they like, some of the providers like to say, we like how you, instead of volunteering, you voluntold us what to do, you know what I mean? And so they really encouraged him to stay in Charlotte and to work on his health. You know what I mean? He had, the soft tissue, the hamstring issues, and they kind of alluded to it, him being out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes in, Paul's rock hard at the, tail end of last season. And he really produced, and he really became, the kind of guy like Bryce could really rely on. Because, I mean, we talked about how, man, the dude could route you up in a phone booth.
Yeah.
And then lastly, man, I'm just really excited too, because every player doesn't have to come from Alabama. Every player doesn't have to come from Florida State or, Texas A&M, SEC players. Like I really like to see these guys to come from, Division III, one of these places where they just didn't get the chance, or there was maybe something going on in their life at the time to where, they weren't able to go directly to one of those schools and kind of reap those benefits. Because those guys bust at the same rate as, little schools. So it was just really cool to see a guy come from, Division III, Holy Cross, to becoming a 100+ game playoff receiver. It's kind of a throwback to guys, people always say comparison, but don't compare those certain guys. But you compare him to just in the instant of like a Jerry Rice, what I'm saying, who came from an HBCU and sweetness. I mean, like these guys come from these small schools.
Shannon Sharp.
It's like the Dallas game. You know what I mean? Like everybody said Jerry Rice wasn't that fast, didn't have a fast 40, just like Coker. But you see him running away from cornerback. So really excited. I just blows my mind that we really are. Because, you look at like the way the Eagles do business, and it's pay them early, pay them often. And I really, really like that we're taking that approach to when we raise our own guy up, we, take guys, develop them, we pay them.
Yeah.
And, when you do that and you do it early, you put yourself into the kind of stratosphere to where you're not having to deal like the Cowboys and those teams who were at the last minute going through, writhing of fingers and what are we going to do? How are we going to pay this player? And we're going into training camp and they're wanting a new deal, so they're not coming to play. These guys know that this front office, this organization cares about them. And so they're working harder than ever.
Absolutely. You could have used something other than rock hard, bro. I don't know what you was on this morning. Like, goodness, bro. So this is an article that came out from the CarolinaPanthers.com. Is like, for weeks now, Jalen Coker has tried to keep his excitement at bay. Conversations would arise about his role in this Carolina Panther offense, his future with the team, and a possible extension on the horizon. The topic since the end of the 2025 season when Coker staked his claim as wide receiver 2. So they just threw that out there, which I've got a take on that, but it'll be what it is for now. But throughout each conversation, each nudge or question about a possible extension, Coker would simply put a smile on, push it off, not wanting to get ahead of himself while talks were underway. And this came from Jalen Coker himself. So it was definitely hard to hide the excitement that was slowly starting to build, admitted Coker on Friday, sitting in front of the contract he had just finished signing that will keep him in Charlotte through at least 2029. But at the same time, I didn't want to make it too big where it was distracting me from the work that we were putting in the past 8 weeks. So it sounds like to me that this was something that he kind of already knew was coming. This was obviously, you knew it was going to come at some point. But I'm going to tell you what I really love about this, Brad, is that, like you said, pay him early, pay him often. We're not going to sit around and wait. We're not going to make you feel, inferior to the money that you've earned, or what we project, because there's an argument to be made like, hey, because someone in the chat was like, he played 11 games. No, based on the graphic here that my homeboy had put together, he played in 7 games. It was the 9 games that we played without him were those sober stats, and then on Coke were the 7 games we played with him, right? And so the injury thing was also a thing last year, and we see that Jalen Coker, when available, man, this offense is completely different, right? So that's where you kind of have your bargaining power, is just what these stats show right here. But where you can kind of push back, and I think this is where the money situation showed up and was favorable for, from a team perspective, is because of also this right here. It's like, you got to be available, dog. I think Coker is a beyond 1,000-yard receiver if he played all 17 games, right? It would have been a, dogfight between him and T-Mac over who had the most passing yards, last year. So I really believe that. You just got to be there. Got to be there. But regardless, I am super glad that he is going to be a long-term, and I think even more extended member of this team. I think he is our version of what Adam Thielen was in Minnesota, considering how we found him. I do think that it's interesting. We talk about all these great things that Dan Morgan does, and he deserves it, no doubt. Dan Morgan definitely deserves his flowers, Brant Tillis and everybody else. But we do have to remember, we picked this guy back up off waivers. He cleared waivers. Brad, I'm going to tell you how crazy that is. He cleared waivers. We cut him, let him go. In the preseason, he had the longest yard from scrimmage preseason receiving touchdown in the last 15, 20 years in a Panther uniform. You know what I'm saying? Like one of the longest in any game, not even including preseason, right? And we cut him, and we picked him up off waivers. So that almost was a huge fumble. So who knows what that looks like if he was elsewhere? But boy, I'm glad he's not. So salute to Jalen Coker. Glad that you have, inked your deal, and a member of the Panthers to 2029. Y'all make sure to smash that like button, subscribe button, bell notifications so you never miss a video. Brad, we will I had an emergency call from my camp counseling daughter, who is in her first year as a worker at a local camp here, which I'm so proud of her about. But, of course, she still is a little one, so she had a little bit of a accident, so I'll probably have to jump off here within an hour or less and go pick her up. But I do want to get through these topics because there are some important things that I would like to talk about. One of those being minicamp, man. Brad, we had a lot of really cool things happen in minicamp. But I'm going to tell you, man, I had spoke to you about something I thought was really cool. And that is that I saw, and I guess I read wrong because I thought it was Will Lee that was doing all the damage that I read about, but I was wrong. Now, I will say this. I do find it fascinating that this team, and this just speaks to the kind of guys that you have on this team, right? I did see a tweet, and I couldn't find it yesterday, so I don't have it clipped. But y'all can help me out in the chat because y'all been a little bit more plugged in than I have been lately. Of Will Lee actually playing like starting corner reps over J.C. Horn, and J.C. Horn playing nickel, right? Now, granted, he's not beating out J.C. Horn, playing over J.C. Horn. But what it speaks to is 2 things. 3 things, really. One, J.C. Horn's willingness to go play somewhere else because a young guy needed to get reps. That is teammate, team first stuff, and I love it. 2, Will Lee is far more advanced than we anticipated, because I personally, and I told you this yesterday, Brad, I hadn't heard this in recent years. I mean, you think about a number of corners that we drafted in 2020, a couple of more in 2021. When's the last time you heard, you know what I'm saying, even over guys that were starting that were veterans? I didn't hear no young guy being able to go in and have reps, on the outside, and then your starting corner go play nickel so that you can see what you got in your young guy because he's just that talented. Like, it's not a common thing. And then 3, man, I'm going to tell you, this team is serious about developing talent. And I said earlier, I don't know if you caught this when I was speaking, but I talked about how Dave Canales mentioned, and I don't know if maybe Cody had asked a question to Dave Canales that was, because my boy Pop had referenced that apparently Cody from the C3 Panther podcast and Dave Canales had a conversation. I did try to look that up. I didn't see it because I wanted to hear some of it. But I had mentioned how Dave Canales said that this was going to be the toughest training camp that these guys have ever had. And when I mentioned that, I was like, man, I don't think about that from like a, 2-a-days and we're going to run these guys ragged, because this ain't that type of NFL anymore. Like we didn't pass that. What I do think, though, is that what he means by that is for some of you guys that are on the fence, some of you guys that might be struggling, and we got other guys that have stepped up, like some of these rookies. I think you could also argue, we talked about it, Avero's history and rookies. Hey, man, we playing these guys. If this is going to be the hardest camp in history, I have to believe that if you get outplayed at your position and you're someone not named Bryce, Derek Brown, or J.C. Horn, you can be replaced. Right? And I know that the list probably goes a little bit further than that. It goes further than that. T-Mac, you can add to that. And I'm sure it'll go further than that. But my thoughts about what I think Dave Canales meant about that was that we are not going to allow guys that are talented to sit by and just watch. We're going to let these guys play. One of those guys in particular, Corey freaking Thornton. This dude was everywhere. He played nickel. He played corner. He played safety. And the one thing that I saw Mike K tweet that I loved more than anything else, Brad, because we saw this last year, and I'm going to let you take it away, was that Mike K said the biggest struggle that people had against him, the biggest position that had a struggle against him, slot receiver. I said, boy, oh boy, there's your nickel corner right there. He will start the season at nickel. Take it away.
Well, I really like what Canales said. I mean, so used to being a Panthers fan under John Fox, and then, Ron Rivera, you get a lot of canned answers. A lot of it is what it is. Canales will kind of let you into how they operate as like what the coach, the GM, like how they think on a day-to-day basis. And that's just really cool as a fan. But he was talking about, it's not a surprise what Corey Thornton's doing. He was like, man, he lives in the weight room. He's picking up on the schemes. He lives in the film room. And he said, he alluded to those in his presser, and he was saying, so to us, it's not a surprise. And then, they're bouncing around to all these different schemes. And this is also, we were talking about like minicamp takeaways. They alluded to it with Monroe Freeling and Rasheed Walker. This staff is really about production. They're about putting guys in the places to succeed. And they're just huge on bringing guys along and giving them opportunities, even as rookies. And it's like that starts in practice. Mm-hmm. And when you want a player to develop, I really like what he said about they put them in these, harsh situations. They put them out on the island, put them out there, put Horn in at slot, and then, or nickel, and, they'll kick a Corey out. They'll kick a Willie out, because they want to see if these guys know their communications, if they know their calls, and then if they do make mistakes, they want to see how quickly that they remedy those mistakes, that they go back and study the film, and then they'll see the next day and the day after if they've gotten any better. And that, that takes a lot of oversight. It takes a lot of buy-in, especially from the coaching staff and the scouting people. But I mean, we've seen, especially from the draft, that that's what these people are doing. And when you've got that kind of buy-in across the organization, developing guys will basically, the cream will rise to the top, and on top of that, you'll start to see that come to fruition. And the proof is in the pudding. Jalen Coker, undrafted, wide receiver, Division III, pretty good route runner, doesn't have blazing speed, but has really good hands. And now you're already, before he starts his third year, you're kind of forced to sign him to a bigger unexpected contract because of how well he's played. And that's because, you know what I mean, you gave him a chance to go out there and do what he had been doing in practice. And the offense had been stagnant. And so once he comes in, like you said, I mean, boom. And what you alluded to with the with Real Ball Watcher with, his breakdown. I mean, the offense starts to click. You start to pass for more yards. Guys start to have a little more space. And it's something we've seen with Excel now. Is you start seeing these highlights of practice with Excel catching passes, and you start to see these articles, and then you start to hear these interviews, and he's like, "I've got to have a better year.
I love that. I've
got to play better."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And that's because you are on a team, and we've seen this in the past. A guy's a first round pick. He will get to play, and he'll get the bulk of the opportunities, and the offense will suffer, and the team will suffer, and you can't win because the coaches are scared to put somebody else in.
Right. And so that is not the case here.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's just these articles, I've been reading about minicamp. It's just a love letter to how this team is really determined to develop guys and to give guys opportunities. And everybody who's ever played a sport loves that there's not you got your ballers, man. You've got your guys that are pretty cemented. But after that, you don't have this hierarchy of players who never have a chance to step on the field.
Right.
Because guys are cemented by their contract or by their draft position. And so knowing that when you play hard, when you study hard, when you work hard, that you've got a chance to get reps on the field and help your team win, that's going to make us a real hard out all season next year.
Yeah. Man, what's up with you and all these hard on, hard outs?
I'm hard, son.
You good, man? You straight?
Yeah. I got a good night's sleep. Woke up, this morning.
Yeah. Here we go.
Running away.
Yeah, I got you. All right. Fly them out, bro. Cash out.
Oh.
Anyway, shout out to 803 VI. He said, I got a chance to meet Bryce Young last week at XL's Trail Ride event down in SC. He's a great guy. Speaking of what you were talking about with XL, man, I thought that was really cool. We didn't really get to speak on that because we weren't around or alive when that happened. But I thought that was a really good gesture by Bryce, right? Something that you don't normally do, but, and look, the thing I like about this, man, and again, this is just part of that whole leadership and just, Brunson just oozes that, man. Like when you watch his interviews and stuff like that, he's just all about leadership, and I like this gesture from Bryce because you didn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? I think people kind of have the book on XL about what his career is possibly going to be in Carolina, right? Even though I like to talk junk just because it's fun, man. But I think XL's got a lot to offer. One thing I love seeing, man, bro, he looks great. He looks great, man. He lost a ton of weight. And it's a noticeable change, too. His arms are smaller. He's more nimble. Yeah. He's quicker. And he was already fast, man. So I can't wait to see what that looks like for him. We might actually – I'm going to tell you one thing I've been wanting to see from XL so bad, man. And we saw it in the Fan Fest, but I want to see it in real time. I can't wait to see XL take a slant or a drag or something and just catch it in stride and burn everybody. Because I think he can do that. And that could be, I mean, even if his routes are just simply that and the go route, that still makes him extremely dangerous in this offense. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you have a guy like Brazil that can take the top off the defense and create one-on-one with XL and a tight end. And a linebacker, or XL and a small safety or whatever like that. Like that's a matchup nightmare. So I still think he has a ton to offer this team. But I really like how Bryce went out of his way to go and hang out with him and and be seen and really get involved and all that kind of stuff. Like, because sometimes with some guys it takes that. You know what I'm saying? Like, come meet me at my level. I know Cam talked about like, hey man, reach out to him, have meetings with him or whatever like that, talking to XL. But I feel like Bryce probably saw that too and was thinking, you know what? Maybe I should do that. Maybe I need to take the the lead in that, and we get together. And who knows what? Because I don't know the backdoor conversations that were had. Like it could have been both of them. Could have been one or the other.
Man, XL invited him, man, to the all benevolent Bryce, and him gracing people with his presence. Man, XL invited him down to the crib in Mullins, and
he showed up. But I'm saying I just thought that because he didn't have to. He didn't have to. Like what I'm saying. Like I said, you could position yourself to be like, man, I really don't. But like I also said this too, Brad. One thing I like about that though is that now that gives you even more comfortability to say a thing like you said when you were getting upset with people and saying because look, we all on the same page. There's no more. We can take the gloves off now. You know what I'm saying? Like and really talk to each other. Hey, look, not for nothing. We just the very thing I've been screaming about. It happened during minicamp. XL dropped the pass, right? Coming across the middle, dropped the pass. Shook it off. Bryce like, hey, let's go. Don't worry about it. Keep going. Caught the next one, scored a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? That I love that. That hasn't always been the case, and probably hadn't always been the case between those two, right? You drop enough of my pass, I'm like, all right, bro, I'm going somewhere else. So.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I've seen interviews where they talked about Aaron Rodgers completely phasing a guy off the roster from a couple of drops.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's definitely a thing that can happen. But, XL in minicamp, glad that you asked. I really like a quote he said. He said, me and Bryce, we ain't never had a problem, but it's always room to grow. And, that's what I feel like he took from Cam's interview. He was like, we're working. We're going to stay with each other. Hopefully we'll be able to play with each other for a long time. And they talked about, him hitting Leggett, for a 15-yard gain, streaking across the field, which, losing what you were talking about him just catching these wide open passes. It was like he was so wide open, they just couldn't believe how, wide open he was in the defense. And so when they talked to Bryce about that, because the article I'm pulling from it's a Charlotte article called Bryce likes what he's seeing from XL. And they go into the nuances of the position. Apparently XL is so comfortable and feeling more and more comfortable that he's pointing out to guys like, no, you need to line up here. Brazzle, like, no, man, like, this is where you want to come out of your route. They talk about him getting out there working on his footwork before anybody, him being in the film room. So, and then, and he ends the other article with being like, I just can't have a year like last year. So, what we were talking about, like, the old adage, iron sharpens iron, and guys are, competing with each other. This has been the wake-up call that we all wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the haters. They were like, man, like, he need to quit, being in these videos. He need to, work out harder. He needs to quit working out with Route God and work out with his teammates. He's scheduled during this 5-week period before training camp to go out to Arizona and be with, Bryce and the other receivers. So he's locked in. He's lost 16 pounds. They said he was 238, 235, and now he's 221. And XL's locked in, man. And the coaches are talking about, him working with the other players is kind of a revelation. And then they just talk about the comfortability. And like that's what I go back to is when I was saying when everybody was trying to, be done with the kid, and maybe we need to, put him on the trade block, maybe do all these things. Some guys, it takes longer.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes a little longer. And when go back to the fact that the guy lost both of his parents, basically before high school, and lost his grandmother, and like all these different things that he's had to deal with. And then the fact of Mullins really, really, really relies on this guy. Like he's
They do,
he's
yeah.
a huge draw there.
Yep.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like they talk about how he has his, football camps and all those different things and what he's doing for that city.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been a lot on the kid's plate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I'm rooting for him, like I said, to take that next step. But when I think about it, and I think about, what Isaac talks about of our new, offensive coordinator, about Brazel running off the defense, the way Coker routes guys up, the way T-Mac is just a bully. If XL can get in there and just, pull in these wide open passes because the defense is so confused and there's so much speed and size on the field, man, we really going to be doing all right.
We're going to be doing more than all right. Because you think about all of that, and that's what I'm saying. That to me is what, when Dave Canales says this is going to be the toughest, I'm going to challenge you guys at a level you've never been challenged at before. Here's another wrinkle to that we're talking about, Brad. Offensively, I think this is going to be a very difficult offense for some guys to grasp. And I'm glad that a guy like XL is feeling comfortable enough. Hey, look, Darrell Bevel's offenses are not easy, right? And I do think that Brad Isaac's offense is going to be an iteration of what Darrell Bevel comes along to help with, right? In addition, also from what he's learned from Canales over the years. But I think a lot of the terminology will still be the same. But for some guys, that can be a struggle. Hey, I'm going to challenge you. We're going to push you. We're not going to sit by and wait for anybody. We're going to push you. So I'm glad that XL gets ahead of that by saying all that stuff you just talked about, because I heard the same thing that you just detailed from Mike K and Alex on the Keep Processing podcast a couple of days ago about XL kind of helping guys and, helping get guys in position. And I love when people who haven't necessarily had the ultimate success take on that kind of leadership role, because it could be right there for you. And guess what? Here's the beautiful thing. Let me tell y'all, I'm a crier, right? I am a crier. Let XL have a game where he just absolutely shred a defense and we end up going to the playoffs, or it happened in the playoffs. You're going to see me cry on the broadcast, right? Like, I'm just that guy. Like when Dave Canales talked about how he cried when XL had a big game or whatever, I kind of came in and made jokes about it. Fam, I almost cried when I was talking about, like, if you would have seen me when that drive was happening, when we beat the Rams earlier in the season and we were driving on, like, in the third quarter where we held the ball pretty much the entire third quarter, and we crossed, like, Chuba had like a run on like 2nd and 10 where he gained like 15 yards, and you could hear the whole stadium screaming, keep pounding over even the announcers. Boy, my eyes was wetting up. Oh my gosh, man, you talking about it. Like, so to me, I love that a guy has captured an opportunity for him to be a leader, even though he hadn't had the success that he feels like he should have had. And not for nothing, Brad, what you just said, man, I saw a clip of a guy talking, and this may be what you were referencing, or maybe it was something different, but to match your point of what you were talking about what he does for his city, I saw this guy talking about, like, he was like, man, XL do everything for this city, bro. Like, he's so tapped in, man. Like, he don't, he ain't leave us. He ain't get Hollywood on us. He come home all the time. He kick it with people, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, you know what? Like, I know I like to have fun with certain narratives on here because I'm a content creator, so I'm always trying to make some content. That brother ain't got nothing but respect for me. You will never hear another bad, I don't care how bad XL play or anything like that, I'll never utter another bad word about him. Never. Because that's respect on another level, especially when, like I said, even looking this playoffs, when Brunson had when they lost game 5, go look at what Rick Brunson did to Jalen. Going and grabbing him and talking to him and coaching him and, coaching him hard, all that kind of stuff. Outside of his coaches, XL don't have that. You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately his parents, went on to be with the Lord, man. So he don't have that. So there's a certain level of respect for him to be able to get to the point that he got to in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And I'm projecting, I'm talking to myself when I say this, you know what I'm saying? Because, some of the things that I've said, some of the things I projected, it ain't cool, man. Like, I don't care if it's for fun or whatever. Like, it ain't cool. So salute to XL, man. I appreciate you, man. You good in my book, dog. But go ahead. You saying?
Yeah. I mean, and I really feel like even with the way you discuss it, it's still, respectful. My problem is with the people who are like, he don't sound like that. Look at his earlier interviews. He don't sound like that. And he's stupid and da 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 da. And then you go to these, this article is just really, really good for me to read because, I mean, it talks about Bryce Young saying, his command, and like just some of the quotes here, you can see the extra command Young said of Leggett after the minicamp workout on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. He's one of the vets in the receiver room. He's getting guys lined up. You see the rookies come in asking, where am I on this? And him having ownership. I call a route and it's automatic. I know exactly my split. I know the detail. We can have a next level connection. If we get quarters on this route, should I keep this high or coming flat? These are things that XL's asking him. And he's like, hey, I see a place for me to see it. Things like that, receivers that you have like a Thielen and you have, Coker, these guys who can find a place to sit in the zone. I mean, we talked about it like a month ago. I mean, the biggest defense that secondaries play is zone coverage. Mm-hmm. And so you do have to find those nuances. Your talent and your speed and size at this level can be neutralized because they can run a zone, and you can't run past three players. You know what I mean? So I really like what he was saying with that. And in the article that was by Alex Zitlo or whatever, mm-hmm. and who wrote the article, and he talked about the fact that these things are a product of Leggett's growing football IQ. Mm-hmm. And so to finally hear someone talk about the kid's ability to break down, the plays, to understand the offense, that was something that you didn't hear the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And, and I'll finish with Bryce's quotes about being around Mullins. And he was like, I was able to be around his family, people who grew up with him. Young said it was a real cool community. It was cool seeing how revered he is, how much he's affected the area. While X is away, people were coming up to me like, it's been so different. The city's been different. He's come back and done all these things for our city. We all have hope because of all the things he's come back and done. Mm-hmm. So, dude, connection made.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? With what Cam was talking about. Cam was talking about getting with your quarterback. Now he's going to have that confidence in him. And so I now look for him to have a big jump this year, along with, our whole offense. And it's going to be one of those pick your poison things. I used to always get so mad when we played Atlanta because Atlanta always had a good third receiver. Mm-hmm. And so, if you were covering Roddy White, you know what I mean, or you were covering Algie Crumpler, like they always had one more guy. Mooney's been the guy most recently. Mm-hmm. They always had that third guy that they could just throw to. Yeah. And I think we'll have those options this year with Brazel, XL, and Jimmy Horn Jr.
Yeah. Roddy, it'd be Roddy, Julio, and then the third guy would be Harry Douglas. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Harry Douglas, man. Mm-hmm. 3rd and 7.
Yep.
Hey, we shut down
Rap
Julio,
City.
We shut down Roddy.
Yeah.
And Harry Douglas would eat on what do you say on ESPN? That boy bad.
Yeah. Yep. So, you talked about, and I'll read Double O'Kane super chat in a second. Appreciate you, my brother. But when you go see something like that, man, it changes the way you feel about a person. It drives your level of compassion. The accountability that Bryce may want to have with XL from this point will be led more with a labor of love. You know what I'm saying? Because you're never going to forget what you saw there, knowing that, especially if you had a preconceived notion about that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying you did.
Right.
Not saying you did at all. But when other people, I mean, think about this. Your mistakes show up on my stat line too. When you got a ball ripped out of your hands against New Orleans, and then you and me had a big time play where you climbed the ladder to help seal that game on a game winning drive. Still, that first one, I'm gonna remember that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can create these preconceived notions.
I remember that.
You see what I'm saying? You're gonna create these preconceived notions about guys. A big drop in Denver, and you go ask them like, "What happened?" I couldn't see. The sun was in my eye. He's like, "Yeah, but that counts against my completion percentage." You know what I'm saying? I think now when you go get with a guy like that on a ground level, now you've got more compassion. You know what? I don't even care, bro. You know what, man? Look. Man, let's go forward. I love you, bro. Like, you one of the coolest dudes I've never hung around. I can't tell you how many people in my life, Brad, including you, that I couldn't stand in the beginning. No, I'm just playing. Like, no, there's mad people in my life, not you.
What?
I'm really joking. It's mad people in my life, though, that I've met where, like, either somebody, because I didn't know you before. I didn't know of you. I didn't know about you before I met you. And we hit it off immediately. So I was just being tongue in cheek there. But there have been people in my life that I've met, man, that, you hear about from other people and be like, man, I'm telling you, bro, that dude he is nothing. And they might have said that about me. I might have been that person. I've been told that before. Man, that dude arrogant. He is crass. He talked too much, all that kind of stuff. You probably all right. You right about all of it, right? But your experience with me might be different than somebody else's, who I tried to take their girl. You know what I'm saying? Or something. I ain't that guy. I'm just kidding. But you never know until you meet the person. You see what I'm saying? You meet the person, you get one-on-one with them, you get, ground level with them, it becomes a different situation. Shout out to my man Double O Kane with the $5 super chat. My man Brad's favorite, Double O Kane. I'm just collecting names of everyone who wanted BY9 and XL out of Carolina. 2026, don't jump ship, stay in the boat with the hole in it. Let me tell you something. One of those names on that list, because look, I completely agree with you, Double O Kane, but you ever seen that commercial of Flex Seal? Like, I am the guy in the Flex Seal boat, because there's some holes in that boat for me and XL, but I done Flex Sealed it up. I told you there will be no more bad words said about XL on this channel. So I'm in the Flex Seal boat. Shout out to my man Double O Kane. Shout out to XL. XL is now Vietnam on this channel. No bad words said about XL or Vietnam. Shout out to the 2-6.
Well, I mean, two things when you were talking about that before. One, we now kind of, see why Cam Newton was so hurt when the whole thing went south with him and Kelvin Benjamin, because he had taken him to, Georgia, had him around his family, and then he was like, I need a quarterback who can put it here, and I need da-da-da-da, whatever. But then two, with these guys forming these kinds of bonds, I really like what, when they talked about the blueprint, Dan Morgan said, he was like, our guys in this building really like each other. And when he said that, they went to a video of those guys walking through to the cafeteria, and it was like XL, Coker, some guys on defense. And when you see that all of these guys really do rock with each other, it always, me as a fan, I've always wanted us as an organization to get back to 2015, because that was one of the best locker rooms in the NFL.
Yeah, and
people wanted to come play for us because of that locker room.
That was really surrounded around two guys, but carry on 3 guys.
Yeah.
You know
what I'm saying? And so now you have these guys that want to play for each other. Look what's going on in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, your future franchise quarterback, shows like a staunch political affiliation, and then everybody on the team goes completely in the opposite direction, and everyone's angry, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
we will not have that problem going forward next year, and that's just not. I mean, that's not the only team in the NFL, but like I said, I mean, I like when these guys make these different connections, And so, and another one, you talk about it's especially weak-minded people will see a guy, see a thing, and think like that's who that guy is. Even irregardless of what people tell them, it's like on this kind of level, nobody's whispering in our ear like, Excel's not smart or Excel's not this.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing that from message boards and we're seeing that from articles and, different interviews, and people are taking that kind of stance. Same thing again with Cam. When he went to New England, I remember what were the two twins, the McCourty twins,
Mm-hmm.
and Devin McCourty said he was like, man, I thought Cam Newton was one of the most arrogant assholes who was a terrible, horrible teammate. We already knew as Carolina fans he wasn't a horrible teammate.
Right.
In the NFC Championship game against Arizona, and I thought this was one of the coolest things ever for a quarterback to do. His Under Armour cleats, they made special every game. It had everybody on the roster's name except his on those cleats.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That sounds like a horrible teammate.
Yep.
And so he gets up there, and McCourty was like, man, after 4 or 5 weeks in the building, I was like, there is no one in this entire building that Cam Newton doesn't have a one-on-one relationship with, from janitors all the way to, the best receiver, to the best defensive player, to Coach Belichick, to Robert Kraft. And he became, like, his eyes were open to who the guy really was. And before that, he was going on what the national media was saying.
Yeah.
He's a hot dog. He's doing, the woman wrote the little article talking about how the oxygen went out of the stadium because Cam was celebrating. Her little boy wanted to know what was wrong. So, I'm just glad that these kind of articles are kind of coming out to show that the kid is working hard, that he's progressing, which, back in the day, 3 years for a receiver was completely normal. And his IQ is expanding, and Bryce Young is starting to trust anymore. And they're forming this relationship that, he had a meeting with Cam, an interview with Cam, and he told him to pursue this. And it's just the fruition of all of it, which is only going to make us better.
Yep. And we're just seeing the beginning of it, man. Like, like I said, when camp starts, that's when I'm going to be the most excited, because I think in training camp,
man, can you imagine if we could go see it?
Oh, next year. We only got one more year. This is last year, bro. We in there next year. But
Okay.
I'm going to tell you, bro, I can't imagine a one-on-one Will Lee and Xavier Lee get. We gonna get some fights in training camp, dog. I want it, man.
It's gonna be jumping. Hey, they were talking about how Jalen Phillips and Bryce is chirping back and forth, and that makes me think about Cam and Thomas Davis.
It sure does, bro. Can you? I want you to think about that, man. Like, man, look, Jalen Phillips is a freak of nature, right? I like that like I said, when I saw Bryce Young cussing out the position groups, and now that you're saying that him and Jalen getting into it, bro done turned the corner, bro. It's getting ready to be something. It's going to be different. Because, you just think about this. Like, dog, go look at who was on the receiving end of that play where Bryce Young turned his shoulder and hit Tedoroa McMillan, which many people, and many people is real ball watcher, because he said it before I heard anybody else say it, that play was the turning point of our season last year. Because we were 1-3. On that fourth down, if he don't make that play, the season might be over. If we go 1-4, there's no chance we're making the playoffs at that point, because we lose a lot of momentum. That play down right there 17. Was down 17. Hey, dog, keep talking. You was down. You had a 17-0 when we came back and beat you. Keep talking. You know what I'm saying? Like 8.5 sacks, $100 million man off of 5 sacks. Keep talking. You know what I'm saying? I want you to get mad. I want you to get mad, because you are too physical, too big, too strong to only have that line of a stat number. But hey, but them pressures though, them pressures is different. So I'm gonna give you that. The pressures is different.
Right.
But you got Bleacher Report writing articles saying that we had the 10th worst free agent acquisition, right? After crowning us one of the teams that won free agency in the draft. Circling right back around. And what was the contract that they were talking about? Jalen Phillips, yours. You want me to print it out and bring it to training camp to show you? You know what I'm saying? Tua Tua would never talk to you like this. I will.
But I will.
Ask Tua what time it is when it come to me. He know what time it is. Yeah, he closed the deal. Good for him. I didn't have a Devontae. Go look at what I did in the SEC championship. I can talk to you like that, big dog. I love it.
Tua do be throwing up gang signs though.
Man, stop, man. See, you can... Stop doing that. Bro,
on his back with the camera on him, son.
That's terrible. That is terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
This guy knows what I'm talking about.
You gotta whisper my name. Anyway, I got one more thing I'm gonna play real quick, and it's gonna skip around a little bit, and then I'm gonna talk about this, and I'm gonna have to go because I do have to go get a sick child. But
let me say this real quick too.
Yeah, go ahead.
The last thing I want to say about minicamp, man, Tommy Tremble, because everybody was like, we need to go out and get another tight end. Man, the tight end group is not. Tommy Tremble had back surgery last year. The year before, he had the hamstring issues in 2024, and they are saying with a full spring under his belt, he is looking really fast. He is working really hard, and the coaches are really excited where he fits in with this offense. And I'm just going to take it at face value, but I'm really excited just for the fact that, I mean, we know how physical the guy is. You know, I watched our guys at FPFO. You know, they did a rookie highlight reel, and they were showing some of the runs. You know, did a plethora of end rounds last year for brother Jimmy Horn. And man, to see some of those blocks and those pancakes and those sit 'em downs that Tommy Tremble did on those end rounds, if he can give us something in the passing game,
it's over.
He'll be well worth his, 16, 18 million for 3-4 years.
Well, and Tommy does give us in the passing game. It's just not consistent, but carry on.
Right. So I'm saying if he can get more consistent, I like the way the kid plays, and I really like the way that he comes, and the way he comes to play, and just the physicality of how he operates. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be a run team where guys can get out and make things happen in space, our guy Jonathan Brooks is looking good. I'm super excited about Tommy Tremble, and I just as far as minicamp, they got the position battles. Like I said, Canales putting out Monroe Freeland, Rasheed Walker, and, Corey Thornton, Will Lee. I'm just, like I said, I'm really excited. I am a little, because I used to attend, my boy Pat used to always attend training camp, and I'm going to be ready next year because it's going to be a nice facility. It's going to be a nice setup. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see what's going on because this is going to be one of the toughest training camps. Like I said, you've got 2 joint practices. You've got an extra game. It's going to be a lot on these players, but I think this is going to be the thing that sets the base for the structure that we're going to try to build during the season and for us to have a really good season.
Agreed. Shout out my dog Fayette. Now I'm in the building. My man said I'm coked up. Let's go. Coked up. Man, I used to love that song. Geeked up. Bro, when I was outside. But yeah. Bryce is the offensive player I want to prove the haters wrong. XL is all right, but dropping critical passes or staying in bounds is head shaking. I hope they both ball out. I couldn't agree more. My man, appreciate you coming through. So this last thing I wanted to play real quick. So like I said, the stream is likely going to skip. I just want you to hear the audio, and then once I pause it, it'll come right back. But I don't know if you saw this, Brad. Did you see this Mike Jackson tweet? So Tom Brady, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm confused. I am confused because I guess I'm confused about what Mike took bad about what Brady said here. But Mike Jackson, let me just read what Mike Jackson said first. Mike said, how can somebody who ain't never been on a P squad talk about it ain't Okay, I'm gonna put the punctuations where they should be because the run-on sentences make me confused about what he was saying. So he says, "How can somebody who ain't ever been on P Squad talk about it? Period. It ain't the excuse me, talk about it. Period. Ain't s sweet about knowing you can be gone because any position group got hit with injuries, and we not even talking about the insurance or not getting paid in the offseason, bro. Cap. Okay, so I sort of understand what Mike Jackson is trying to say here. However, when I listened to the clip in context, I was just a little confused about the take. So I'm going to play it, and then I want you to tell me what you think about what Brady said here. One, let me type a one in the chat when y'all hear this, if you can hear it. If you can't, Brad, you and I will hear it, and then we'll explain it because I'm sure a lot of people have seen it.
Living this life where they could tell their family and friends, which I have no problem with that. Like, there's
Okay. I kind of figured that this would be the issue. Like a lot of times, if y'all can hear me, I'm back. Brad, I'll add you back into the stream. I'm not sure if you're still there.
here.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, like I said, this computer that I have, it's not the best for pain because there's clips that I want to be able to share like this. But essentially what Tom Brady was saying was that there are guys who don't necessarily, like, who feel comfortable being on the practice squad and don't want to really work past that, right? So what he was saying was like, okay, we got guys that are on the active, we got the 53-man roster, then we got the 15 practice squad players, right? So of those 15 practice squad players, those guys, a lot of times what I found was that those guys would play during the, scout team or whatever like that, and they would be routing up Darrelle Revis. And you'd be like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? Like, and what he was saying was like, well, we got to elevate this guy. Like, what, why are we not elevating him? But the reality is that once they got outside of, practice, and look, we've seen this, how many times, and look, I shoot Smitty Bell when it comes to at least one receiver in particular. Mingo, not so much, but Terrace Marshall Jr., man, I seen it. I seen when we had a joint practice and Terrace Marshall Jr. was jumping between two defenders to catch a ball. And Steve Smith said on a broadcast during a preseason game, hey, this dude's going to take some people's jobs. He did take a couple of jobs, the janitor. But, no, I'm just kidding. That's awful. That is terrible. But the point is that, yes.
Lost a couple of jobs.
he lost a few. But the point is that you do have some guys that are like, in practice that go crazy. You know what I'm saying? And then in the regular game, some of it just doesn't connect. I feel like with a guy like Terrace Marshall Jr., because he plays such high-level football, it just didn't connect. I don't think it's a thing of like effort or anything like that. But you better believe, like Tom Brady was saying, there are guys on that practice squad that are just there to be on the NFL roster to be able to tell your friends and family, because he said this in the clip as well, that I'm in the NFL. Guess who would be one of those guys? Me. If I was on a practice squad and I knew physically I wasn't good enough, but and I think this might be part of what Mike Jack is talking about, because yes, you want to be a part of the NFL. If I'm not good enough, of course I'm going to try to get in where I fit in. But I know I got to be ready, because if my name is called, it is what it is. But once that pressure is on, it becomes a whole different thing. So now you kind of have to be in performance mode. So what I think Tom and Mike are kind of saying this similar things, but I think what Mike is looking at is just like situations in life. You are going to run across the majority of people who will put in about this much effort, and then people like you that put in this much. That's how you got where you got to, right? So in a vacuum, looking at it through your own lens, I could see where you would feel away. But Tom Brady's right. The majority of people ain't going to put in the work. We see that in everything. It ain't just in football. That's in life in general. You know what I'm saying? So that said, I didn't really take an issue with what Brady had to say here personally, right? What I will say, though, is that where I can level with Mike Jack is that when you in the trenches like that and you seeing it and you seeing these guys fight, you could take it personal from someone that you feel like, well, hey, you ain't never really been down here for that to happen to. But I will say this. You got to know who you're talking to as well. 6th round, 199. I had to back up Drew Henson. I was putting, even though I was what they called the comeback kid, they kept putting the All-American baseball and football guy ahead of me. Then I got drafted way down the board, to a lot of quarterbacks who shouldn't even be around. And then I didn't even start my first year. I was on the bench the whole year. There was no guarantee. Tom Brady said something in that little special called the Brady Six, where he was like, he told one of his partners from college, like, hey man, and his agent, hey, you know, I'm looking for like houses in this area, whatever like that. He like, houses, fam, you don't even know if you're gonna make the team. Oh, I'm gonna make the team. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Mike probably felt like that when Mike came to Carolina after we traded him for Mike Barrett. Were there any picks involved? I can't remember. But a guy that we drafted from Michigan, who I don't even think so.
Straight up.
Yeah, straight up trade. He's not even on the NFL roster at this point, right? So you got overlooked in Seattle. You came here like probably confident. I'm about to make this team. And boy, did you do that. And now getting ready to position yourself to be one of the highest paid corners in the league. Probably not by us. But the point is it stands. So, yeah, nah.
They were saying you were muted in the chat. Can they still hear you? Can they hear you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm muted? They said, hey, bro, you. Yo, can y'all hear me? Panther Boy says I'm muted. I don't see that from anybody else. But
being muted for like the last 5 minutes because our viewership went from like 108 to like 89. I was like, yeah.
Ain't no way. Hey, type a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me now.
And you know why the Lord did that? Because he was on here caking for Tom Brady, man. Tom Brady, man. Tom Brady.
There are other people on here who have said I am not muted, but some people saying that I am. I don't know. A lot of people typing 1 saying that they can hear me. So just join. I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it might have just been like 1 or 2 people, but nah, it's his issue, not yours. Hey, look, if Rob Blake can hear us,
showering with one, son.
Look, if Rob Blake can hear us, we good.
And Miss Douglas.
Yep, because Rob is my man, but Rob he be like, hey, can you turn it up? Like earlier, he was like, hey, Brad, your volume sound good today, boy.
Yes, it did.
Look, they somebody said we heard all the time. Look, he laughing like you laughing about the Tom Brady. They like we heard all the Tom Brady stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah, but nah, I'm being serious though, man. Like I didn't take it. I guess maybe I don't see how Mike Jackson is taking it that way, but I guess I'm not in those rooms to know. But you give me your take on it because I didn't take it the way he did. But
well, in the words of one gold member, I do. We are in a time in society, man, where groceries, gas, the way of living, putting a roof over your head is a huge task for like the average American who doesn't have a leg up. And this is one of those things with Mike Jack where it's like, listen, bro, to him, even though, Brady was a 6th round pick, everything went your way. Your franchise quarterback got his dome bounced off the turf, playing against some bums like the Jets. You get to go in. You win your first Super Bowl passing for 150 yards a game. People forget about that. Yep. Then, big thing with Brady, one was the cheating, the way they taped our practices in 2003. They had 2 cheating scandals, the deflating the footballs, all that just got swept under the rug. But the other, the big thing too, to me was, man, Brady used to just, like straight eviscerate his teammates, like just cussing them out on the sidelines, man, like, and it was viewed as like, man, he's such a, rambunctious go-getter. He's such a, stern leader. Meanwhile, T.O. would cuss his teammates out and they'd be like, God, he's a team cancer. He's the worst teammate ever. Get him up out the paint. Mike Jack is a guy, he just had to claw for everything. One of the reasons we all became Jake Delhomme fans was because we all saw those pictures of him playing for the Frankfurt Galaxy in Germany, that purple and orange. And we were like, man, this dude's really clawed his way back and he took us to a Super Bowl, man. He's got better. Same way with Mike Jack, man. And so this right here is just kind of like a emotional lashing out against a guy who, you know, you view as many view like current administration leadership as someone. I mean, how many of us got millions of dollars once we graduated college, like just put in our account, and we're able to go from there? And so when you see this rebuttal and this, you know, it's the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It's like a very, you know, hard stance against, like, you know, this is laziness and this guy's just not giving any effort, and he's just like, how would you know, man? How would you know?
Well, I mean,
it's like Brandon T. Jackson turned to Bow Wow and lottery ticket was like, I
I'm
can't
broke.
eat. Ninja, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And, you know what I'm saying? That's what this is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I get it, man. Hey, he's like, man, I ain't trying to hear what you got to say, Tom Brady, about practice squad players. You ain't never been a practice squad player. You know
I
what
see
it
it.
is?
I see both sides. I
got 5 kids to feed.
Yeah. Mike Jack got 5 kids?
No. I always talk about that from the dude Benny on Total Recall.
I was about to say, boy. Bro,
Nah. But hey, he did pull up in that 96 Nissan Maxima though.
Bro,
so he got this money.
5 kids, bro, is outside. But all right, man, it's been a good show, bro. I hate to end so abruptly. I had other things that I wanted to cover, but you know, we'll get back to it next time around. I appreciate all my regulars, man. My man Fed Nam, Miss Douglas, I see you in the building. Rob Blake, my man Pop, Dom 34. Man, I see some new people in here. Man, I appreciate y'all. Just make sure to smash that like button, subscribe button, bell notification so you don't miss a video. Like I said, we will be back. Hopefully, I know it is the summertime, so you know it'll be kind of shoddy. But as close as we get to training camp, you know we'll be back full throttle. There will be a surprise for the season where Mint Street Monday will be more than just on Monday. So look forward to that. But I appreciate y'all as usual, man. Y'all take care, and until next time, keep pounding.